Hello, dear friends. This is a summary of the conclusions of the BRICS Summit in South Africa. Opinion piece. BRICS Expansion. 6 new countries enter. 46% of the world population. Call for peace in Ukraine and Iran. The single currency is very complicated. Let's start. The BRICS group more than doubles the number of member countries. The BRICS now add 6 new countries and already control 42% of the world supply of crude. Argentina, the Emirates, Iran, Ethiopia, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt will join the club on January 1st, 2024. After enlargement, the GDP of the BRICS will represent 37% of world GDP and 46% of the world population. Beijing aspires for the BRICS to constitute a counterpower against the G7. They intend to boost the use of their domestic currencies against the dollar. Other nations that have shown interest in being part of this group are Bolivia, Belarus, Cuba, Honduras, Iran, Palestine, Turkey, and Venezuela. Turkey is a strategic country to which the West has always seen it very close. However, they are tired of knocking on the doors of the European Union so much and not being accepted. It is very difficult now to have a single currency, since a deeper integration process is needed in terms of fiscal and monetary policy. Each central bank of the bloc's members in plural, must resolve the conversion situation. However, because of China's economic power, it is possible that the yuan could become the basis for more efficient exchange. The expansion of the BRICS, the use of national currencies, and the greater participation of developing countries in international organizations were the key issues of the final declaration at the end of the bloc's summit in South Africa. The growth in the number of member nations of the group and the absence of the dollar among the currencies in which projects are carried out make this banking institution an important alternative to international financial institutions based in Washington. The BRICS group advocates a peaceful solution to the Ukrainian crisis through a dialogue and diplomacy, according to the statement confirming the need to resolve the Iranian nuclear issue through peaceful and diplomatic means. In the midst of the current debate on a new type of Cold War between the Eurasian axis and the Atlantic axis, the expansion of the BRICS tends to make the pendulum of forces of the international system move. In this context, the accession of new countries to the BRICS should be considered as one of the main events of the 21st century. As the BRICS become more inclusive, this will ease the group's chances of fighting for reform of major multilateral institutions, such as the IMF and World Bank. South America. The geographical location of the new members serves not only to inaugurate the presence of the BRICS in the Middle East and North Africa, but also to reinforce the presence of the group in South America, thanks to the incorporation of Argentina. It is worth remembering that in addition to Brazil, Argentina also has a history of participation in regional strengthening political movements, such as CELAC and Mercosur, which contribute to a multipolar world. Furthermore, Argentina is accustomed to diversifying its political association whenever possible, and its entry into the BRICS comes at a good time as a result of this policy, above all to reinforce the role of the group within the so-called Global South. In Argentina, the markets opened this Monday, August 14th, with a 22% devaluation. Argentine votes on the stock market sank, and the blue dollar was close to 700 pesos. One day after the spectacular triumph of the libertarian Javier Milei in the international elections on Sunday. Chile sharpens the battle for its historical memory as the 50th anniversary of its coup approaches. In Panama, the waiting time to cross the canal is multiplied by 3. More than 100 ships wait between 9 and 11 days on average to cross the corridor, which affects the world economy and the increase in the price of products. Africa. The current political instability in Niger and the deterioration of European influence in Africa have been one of the main debate agendas in recent times. Meanwhile, other powers are gaining more and more space on the continent. In the case of Niger, 15% of the uranium used by France in its nuclear power plants comes from the African country, which also represents a fifth of the total volume of uranium in the European Union. At the same time, Niger's Human Development Index is among the 3 worst in the world. The military junta of Niger has authorized to intervene in its territory in the event of an attack on the troops of Mali and Burkina Faso. The decision occurs before the possibility of a military intervention in the country by the Economic Community of African States Western Middle East. Now the group acquires the support of a large part of the Islamic world, thanks to the entry of Iran, the Emirates, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt, which would contribute to the plurality of value systems in international relations. The entry into the group of Saudi Arabia and Iran is also notable because both countries were involved for years in disputes for power in the Middle East. However, the role of China as an intermediary in the regularization of diplomatic contacts between these two countries to become part of the BRICS has a key element. In the case of Iran, in particular, the symbolism instilled in the BRICS by the entry of the heir to the historic Persian Empire is very important from a geostrategic point of view, because Tehran represents the country with the second largest territorial extension in its region, in addition to have good relations with China and Russia. In addition, it should be noted that the countries of the Middle East that joined the BRICS are rich in natural resources, such as oil and natural gas, while their relations with the West, as in the case of Iran and Egypt, have gone through moments of strong tension and deterioration in the last decades. As for Iran, after the 1979 revolution, the country became the target of numerous sanctions, which were intended to make Tehran adapt to the impositions of the West, the same situation that Russia is experiencing today. Egypt, in turn, experienced the turmoil caused by the famous Arab Spring that destabilized several countries in North Africa and the Middle East in 2011, and relied on outside interference to aggravate it. Opinions. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi indicated that his country has always believed that the addition of new members will further strengthen the BRICS as an organization. In quotes, this will also reinforce the belief of many countries in the world in a multipolar world order, he said. The Indian leader stressed that the new members will bring new moments and new energy to the cooperation in the group. On the other side, Chinese President Xi Jinping described the expansion of the economic bloc as a new starting point for interaction within the framework of the BRICS and declared that it is a historic day for the group. In addition, Xi added that the new BRICS members will bring new quality to the group's interaction mechanism. According to the Chinese leader, the move to invite new members shows the determination of the BRICS countries to expand their internationalization. China has cut a key interest rate to try to stimulate credit, but does not touch mortgages. It decides to lower the one-year credit rate in an attempt to revive its economy. China has multiplied street vendors to sustain a recovery in free fall, lift strict regulations to stimulate consumption, and give way to many people ruined after confinement. Japan begins to dump Fukushima 1 water into the ocean, despite international rejection. Russia reinforces radiological control over Japanese fishery products. Meanwhile, China restricts all imports of seafood from Japan. The Fukushima sewage spill threatens Japan's exports. The hostility of neighboring countries such as China will have a great economic impact. Economy. World stock markets are on track to record their worst month in almost a year. The Eurozone already points to a contraction of the economy during the summer. The consequences of a very aggressive policy by the ECB are being felt in the Eurozone, which could suffer a drop in GDP of 0.2%. The bad data for the summer in the Eurozone could cause a pause in the rise in interest rates. Von der Leyen announces that the European Union's gas reserves are already at 90%. Low labor productivity in Spain, Germany, France, and Italy will increase their deficits according to Natixis. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.